असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय शांति शांति शांति। नमस्कार, शुभ सन्ध्या। आज अध्यापक संतोष कुमार बसु अरविंद बसु স্মারক বক্তৃতা, তারই সঙ্গে আরেকটি স্মারক বক্তৃতা আমাদের এই সন্ধ্যায় অনুষ্ঠিত হচ্ছে যুগ্মভাবে। সন্তোষ কুমার বসু, অরবিন্দ বসু ও সতী রায় স্মারক বক্তৃতা। ইনস্টিটিউটের রীতি অনুযায়ী আমরা একেবারে শুরুতে এই তিন মহাপ্রাণ সম্পর্কে সামান্য দু চারটি কথা জানব, তারপর আজকে মূল বক্তৃতার দিকে আমরা এগিয়ে যাব। সন্তোষ কুমার বসু জন্মগ্রহণ করেছিলেন 1890 খ্রিস্টাব্দের 14ই জানুয়ারি। রানাঘাট উচ্চ বিদ্যালয়ে প্রাথমিক শিক্ষা লাভের পরে তিনি কলকাতার সেন্ট জেভিয়ার্স কলেজ এবং রিপন কলেজ, বর্তমানে সুরেন্দ্রনাথ কলেজ, সেখানে স্নাতক স্তরে পড়াশুনো করেন। পরবর্তীকালে তিনি কলকাতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের অন্তর্ভুক্ত আইন কলেজ থেকে স্নাতক হন। 1911 খ্রিস্টাব্দে তিনি ইন্দুমতী দেবীর সঙ্গে বিবাহ সূত্রে আবদ্ধ হয়েছিলেন। সাহিত্যে এবং যুক্তিবিদ্যার অধ্যাপক হিসেবে সন্তোষ কুমার বসুর কর্মজীবনের সূচনা হয়েছিল। পরবর্তীকালে তিনি সুপ্রিম কোর্ট এবং কলকাতা হাইকোর্টে আইনজীবী হিসেবে প্রতিষ্ঠা লাভ করেন। আইনজ্ঞ হিসেবে কর্মজীবনের নানা পর্বে তিনি মাতৃভূমির সেবায় নিজেকে যুক্ত করেন। 1931 খ্রিস্টাব্দে চট্টগ্রাম আন্দোলনের বিপ্লবীদের তিনি আইনি সহায়তা প্রদান করেছিলেন। 1939 খ্রিস্টাব্দে সন্তোষ কুমার আইনজীবী হিসাবে নেতাজি সুভাষচন্দ্র বসুকেও আইনি সহায়তা দেন। এরপরেই ঘটে নেতাজি সুভাষচন্দ্রের ঐতিহাসিক মহানিষ্ক্রমণ পর্ব। নানা কর্মকাণ্ডে সন্তোষ কুমারের স্বদেশানুরাগ স্পষ্ট হয়ে ওঠে। 1906 খ্রিস্টাব্দে দাদাভাই নৌরজি ছিলেন ভারতীয় জাতীয় কংগ্রেসের সভাপতি। সন্তোষ কুমার সে সময় তার একান্ত সচিবের দায়িত্ব লাভ করে নিজেকে কৃতার্থ মনে করেছিলেন। 1907 খ্রিস্টাব্দে রাষ্ট্রগুরু সুরেন্দ্রনাথের সভাপতিত্বে গঠিত স্টুডেন্টস অ্যান্ড ইয়ং মেন্স ইউনিয়ন সংস্থার প্রতিষ্ঠাতা সদস্য ছিলেন সন্তোষ কুমার বসু। তিনি দক্ষিণ কলকাতা জেলা কংগ্রেসের সহ সভাপতিও নির্বাচিত হয়েছিলেন। কংগ্রেসের আন্দোলনের সঙ্গে যুক্ত থাকবার অভিযোগে তাকে 1930 থেকে 32 খ্রিস্টাব্দ পর্যন্ত স্বগৃহে অন্তরীণ থাকতে হয়েছিল। এই সময় তিনি কলকাতা পৌরসভায় প্রথমে সহ মহানাগরিক এবং পরে মহানাগরিকের দায়িত্ব পালন করেছিলেন। দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধের সময় তিনি বঙ্গীয় আইনসভায় প্রাদেশিক সরকারের মন্ত্রীর পদও অলঙ্কৃত করেছিলেন। স্বাধীনতার পরে তৎকালীন পূর্ব পাকিস্তান, বর্তমান বাংলাদেশে উপরাষ্ট্রদূত নিযুক্ত হন এবং তার কার্যকাল ছিল 1948 থেকে 1950 পর্যন্ত। 1956 খ্রিস্টাব্দে সন্তোষ কুমার কলকাতা হাইকোর্টের বার অ্যাসোসিয়েশনের সভাপতি হয়েছিলেন। প্রায় একই সময়ে তিনি রাজ্যসভার সদস্য এবং বারাণসী হিন্দু বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের পরিচালন সমিতির সদস্য ছিলেন। সন্তোষ কুমার বসু শ্রীমৎ স্বামী বীরেশ্বরানন্দজি মহারাজের দীক্ষিত সন্তান ছিলেন। 1977 খ্রিস্টাব্দের 27শে মার্চ ভারতের এই মহান সন্তান রামকৃষ্ণ লোকে যাত্রা করেন। অধ্যাপক অরবিন্দ বসু। অধ্যাপক অরবিন্দ বসু ছিলেন সন্তোষ কুমার বসু এবং ইন্দুমতী দেবীর কনিষ্ঠ পুত্র। 1918 খ্রিস্টাব্দের 22শে জুলাই তিনি জন্মগ্রহণ করেন। মিত্র ইনস্টিটিউশন, প্রেসিডেন্সি কলেজ এবং কলকাতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে অরবিন্দ বসু শিক্ষালাভ করেন। স্টেটসম্যান পত্রিকার সাংবাদিক হিসেবে তাঁর কর্মজীবনের সূচনা। এছাড়াও তিনি আকাশবাণীতেও সাংবাদিক হিসেবে কর্মরত ছিলেন। পরবর্তীকালে অরবিন্দ বসু অধ্যাপনা সূত্রে নানা শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠানের সঙ্গে যুক্ত হয়েছিলেন। ডারহাম বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় এবং স্কুল অফ ওরিয়েন্টাল স্টাডিজে তিনি দর্শন শাস্ত্রে এবং ধর্মশাস্ত্রের স্পেল্ডিং প্রফেসর ছিলেন। এছাড়াও তিনি বারাণসী হিন্দু বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে দর্শন শাস্ত্রের শ্রী অরবিন্দ প্রফেসর। তদুপরি অরবিন্দ বসু হার্ভার্ড স্কুল অফ ডিভিনিটি এবং সেন্টার অফ দ্য স্টাডি অফ ওয়ার্ল্ড রিলিজিয়ান্স ইউএস সহ নানা শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠানের সঙ্গে অধ্যাপনা সূত্রে যুক্ত ছিলেন। বিশ্বব্যাপী নানা আলোচনা সভাতেও অধ্যাপক বসুর সুচিন্তিত প্রবন্ধাদি উপস্থাপিত হয়েছে। অধ্যাপক বসুর রচিত গ্রন্থাবলীর মধ্যে রয়েছে প্রিফেস টু স্টাডি অফ ভাগবত পুরাণা, ব্রাহ্মণ অ্যান্ড ঈশ্বরা ইন দ্য ফিলোসফি অফ শঙ্কর, শ্রী অরবিন্দ দ্য পোয়েট, যোগী অ্যান্ড ফিলোসফার। অধ্যাপক বসুর সম্পাদিত বইগুলির মধ্যে রয়েছে শ্রী অরবিন্দ আ গার্ল্যান্ড অফ ট্রিবিউটস, নিরোধবরণ সাধক অ্যান্ড পোয়েট, দ্য মাদার আ বুকে অফ হোমেজ। এছাড়াও স্বদেশে ও বিদেশে অধ্যাপক বসুর বহু প্রবন্ধ প্রকাশিত হয়েছে। এনসাইক্লোপিডিয়া ব্রিটানিকা, রাধাকৃষ্ণন সম্পাদিত হিস্ট্রি অফ ফিলোসফি ইস্টার্ন অ্যান্ড ওয়েস্টার্ন, রামকৃষ্ণ মিশন ইনস্টিটিউট অফ কালচার থেকে প্রকাশিত দ্য কালচারাল হেরিটেজ অফ ইন্ডিয়ার ভলিউম 7 প্রভৃতি বিখ্যাত বইতে তাঁর রচিত প্রবন্ধাবলী প্রকাশিত হয়েছে। অধ্যাপক বসু শ্রী অরবিন্দ পুরস্কার এবং অররত্ন পুরস্কারে সম্মানিত হয়েছিলেন। অল্প বয়সেই তার মধ্যে আধ্যাত্মিক চেতনার উন্মেষ ঘটে। পণ্ডিচেরির শ্রী অরবিন্দ আশ্রমের সঙ্গে তার পরিচয় ছাত্রাবস্থা থেকেই। অবশ্য পরবর্তীকালে 1968 খ্রিস্টাব্দে তিনি স্থায়ীভাবে শ্রী অরবিন্দ আশ্রমে যোগদান করেন। সর্বশেষে 2012 তেসরা জুলাই পণ্ডিচেরি আশ্রমে তিনি গুরুর শ্রীপাদপদ্মে চিরশান্তি লাভ করেন। অধ্যাপক সন্তোষ কুমার, অধ্যাপক অরবিন্দ বসু এই পিতা পুত্রের স্মারক বক্তৃতা শ্রীমতী মৌসুমী মুখার্জি এবং ডক্টর সুদীপ্ত কুমার বসুর পৃষ্ঠপোষকতায় আয়োজিত। সতী রায় 1917 খ্রিস্টাব্দের 28 এপ্রিল ঢাকা শহরে সতী রায়ের জন্ম। পিতা বিভূচরণ গুহ ঠাকুরতা স্বামীজির শিষ্য স্বামী পরমানন্দের বড় দাদা। তিনি ঢাকা শহরের তৎকালীন প্রথিতযশা অ্যাডভোকেট ও বিশিষ্ট মানুষ হিসেবে সুপ্রতিষ্ঠিত ছিলেন। মাতা চারুপ্রভা গুহ ঠাকুরতা। 1936 খ্রিস্টাব্দে প্রখ্যাত কৃষি বিজ্ঞানী শ্রী সুধীন্দ্রচন্দ্র রায়ের সঙ্গে সতী রায়ের বিবাহ সুসম্পন্ন হয়। গোলপাক রামকৃষ্ণ মিশনের কাজে শ্রীমতী রায়ের প্রবল উৎসাহ ও আনন্দ ছিল এবং বিভিন্ন কাজের জন্য অর্থ সংগ্রহে তার সানন্দ আগ্রহও ছিল। ইনস্টিটিউট অব কালচারের নানা অনুষ্ঠানে তিনি নিয়মিতভাবে যোগদান করতেন। এখানকার সকলের সঙ্গে তার প্রীতির সম্পর্ক ছিল। 1991 খ্রিস্টাব্দের 1 সেপ্টেম্বর তিনি পরলোক গমন করেন। এই স্মারক বক্তৃতা তাঁর পুত্র শ্রী সুমিত রায় ও কন্যা ডক্টর শ্রীমতী উমা দাশগুপ্তের পৃষ্ঠপোষকতায় আয়োজিত। আমাদের মধ্যে আজকে এরা প্রায় সকলেই উপস্থিত রয়েছেন। ডক্টর সুদীপ্ত কুমার বসু ছাড়া আমি শ্রীমতী মৌসুমী মুখার্জি, শ্রী সুমিত রায় এবং ডক্টর উমা দাশগুপ্তকে ইনস্টিটিউটের তরফে সাদর সম্ভাষণ এবং কৃতজ্ঞতা জ্ঞাপন করছি। আজকে আপনারা সকলেই জানেন যে আমাদের এই যে বক্তৃতাটি সেইটি প্রদান করবার কথা ছিল অধ্যাপক দিবাকর আচার্যের, বিষয় ধর্মা অ্যান্ড ধাম্মা, হিন্দু অ্যান্ড বুদ্ধিস্ট প্যারাডিমস এই বিষয়ে, কিন্তু অনিবার্য কারণবশত সেইখানে আমাদের একটি পরিবর্তন করতে হয়েছে। তার পরিবর্তে আজকে আমাদের বক্তৃতা প্রদান করবেন ডক্টর আচার্যর আন্ডারেই যিনি গবেষণা করছেন অক্সফোর্ডে, শ্রী নীতিশ রয় পারওয়ানি, তিনি আমাদের মঞ্চে উপবিষ্ট রয়েছেন এবং একই সঙ্গে আমাদের এই সেশনটির প্রিসাইড করছেন স্বামী আত্মপ্রিয়ানন্দজি। আপনারা মহারাজের সঙ্গে সম্যকভাবে পরিচিত রয়েছেন। তিনি আমাদের বিবেকানন্দ ইউনিভার্সিটির কর্ণধার। আমি পূজনীয় মহারাজজিকে অনুরোধ করব আমাদের আজকের এই সভার যে বাকি কার্যক্রম সেইটিকে পরিচালনা করবার জন্য। ধন্যবাদ আপনাদের সকলকে। নমস্কার।
এই সংবাদটা আমরা পেয়েছিলাম উনি এয়ারপোর্টে যাওয়ার মুহূর্তে বাড়িতে, সেটা একটা ভাগ্য, পড়ে গিয়ে খুব চোট লেগেছে। ওনার হেরনিয়া অপারেশন হয়েছিল কয়েক মাস আগে। সেই জায়গাটা কি এত আঘাত লেগেছে, তাতে উনি হসপিটালাইজড হয়েছিলেন। যেহেতু কোনো ফ্র্যাকচার হয়নি, সেজন্য উনি আশা করেছিলেন উনি কিছুদিন বাদে আসতে পারবেন। শেষ পর্যন্ত আমরা আশায় ছিলাম। আমাদের ভাগবতে বলা আছে, আশা হে পরমম দুঃখম নৈরাশ্যম পরমম সুখম। শেষ পর্যন্ত উনি পারলেন না, কিন্তু উনি খুব ইচ্ছা প্রকাশ করেছিলেন ওনার যে সুযোগ্য ছাত্র নীতিশ আমার পাশে আছে, ও এটা বলুক, এটা যেন ক্যান্সেল যেন না করা হয়। উনি আবার মার্চে আসবেন, এই মার্চে, তখন বলছে অবশ্যই আরেকবার যাব বলেছেন। সেজন্য এটা আমাদের উপায় নেই। দৈবম চৈবাত্র পঞ্চমম, গীতাতে বলা আছে অধিষ্ঠানম তথা কর্তা কারণম চ পৃথক বিধম বিবিধাশ্চ পৃথক চেষ্টা দৈবম চৈবাত্র পঞ্চমম। যে কোনো কার্য সাফল্যের জন্য 5টা জিনিস লাগবে, তাতে পঞ্চমটা হচ্ছে দৈবম। ভগবান রামানুজাচার্য বিশিষ্টাদ্বৈত প্রতিষ্ঠাতা, তিনি বলেছেন দৈবম পঞ্চম বলেছেন ভগবান, কিন্তু সেটাই প্রথম। তার ইচ্ছাতেই সবই চলে। সেজন্য আমরা অনিবার্য কারণে একটু করতে হলো। তসমাৎ অপরিহার্যের্থে নতুম শোচিতমর্হসি, ভগবান প্রথমেই বলেছেন 2য় অধ্যায়ে, অপরিহার্য বিষয় নিয়ে তুমি কিন্তু দুঃখ করার কি আছে। নীতিশ আমাদের পাশে যে আছে, সে হচ্ছে দিবাকর আচার্যের ছাত্র, ওখানে গবেষণারত। ওর প্রথম ওর পড়াশোনা করেছিল লতে, আইন নিয়ে, বিএ এলএলবি করলো, তারপরে দিল্লি ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে আবার LLM করলো মাস্টার্স, তারপরে MSc ক্রিমিনাল ল অক্সফোর্ডে গিয়ে করলো। তারপরে ওর খুব ইচ্ছা হলো ফিলসফি নিয়ে পড়াশোনা করবে। এখন ব্রিজ কোর্স আমরা করালাম, ওর জন্য বিশেষ করে এটা কার্যক্রম তৈরি করলাম আমাদের বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে। ও সংস্কৃত পড়লো, ফিলসফি পড়লো, শাস্ত্র অনেকখানি পড়লো। এখন উনি অক্সফোর্ডে ফেলোশিপ পেয়ে দিবাকর আচার্যর কাছে উনি গবেষণারত। বিষয়টা হচ্ছে ওনার প্রাচীন এবং আধুনিক সন্ন্যাসী সম্প্রদায়, এনশিয়েন্ট অ্যান্ড মডার্ন মনাস্টিসিজম। অবধূত সম্প্রদায় ছিল, মনাস্টিক সন্ন্যাসী সম্প্রদায় কিন্তু বোধহয় বৌদ্ধ যুগের আগে হিন্দু ধর্মে ছিল না। এরকম অর্গানাইজড সংগঠিতভাবে সন্ন্যাসী কথাটাও কিন্তু বেদের যুগে ছিল না। ঋষিরা ছিলেন, ঋষিরা বিবাহিত ছিলেন, কিন্তু ঈশ্বর চিন্তায় এবং ঈশ্বর মননে এবং ব্রহ্ম আধ্যাত্মিক মননে কিন্তু ওনারা কিন্তু পারদর্শী ছিলেন, সুতরাং ওখানে ডুবে থাকতেন। The concept of sannyasa perhaps came because of Buddha later on in Hinduism. World negating ideas যেটা আছে, জগৎকে মায়া ইত্যাদি বলাটা পরবর্তীকালে শঙ্করাচার্যের কাছ থেকে ওরা নিয়েছে। শঙ্করাচার্য কোথাও বলেননি এটা। পরবর্তীকালে বিশিষ্টাদ্বৈত এবং দ্বৈতের দর্শনের আঘাতে অজ্ঞানকে কিন্তু বুঝাতে গিয়ে, শেষ পর্যন্ত মায়াকে বুঝাতে গিয়ে ব্রহ্মই কিন্তু চলে গেল, মায়া নিয়ে মেতে গেল অনেক দিন। এটা আমরা শুনেছি বড়দের কাছ থেকে। এখন তিনি বিষয়টা রেখেছিলাম আমরা প্রথমে ধর্মা আর ধম্মা। ধম্মাটা আপনারা জানেন পালিতে, এই বুদ্ধিজমে সবসময় ধম্মা, ধম্মপদা ইত্যাদি। ধর্মা যেটা আছে আমাদের হিন্দু ধর্মে আছে, এই দুটো নিয়ে, দুটোকে মিলিয়ে উনি আমাদের সেটা বলবে। ও বললো ধম্মাটা খুব একটা জানি না, আমি কি করে বললাম। তখন আমি নিজে ইনস্টিটিউট কালচারের অনুমতি ছাড়াই নিজে আমি এখানে সভাপতি হিসেবে নিযুক্ত করে নিলাম। ঠিক আছে, আমি যাব তোমার সঙ্গে। আমি বাকিটা মোটামুটি মেকআপ করতে জানতে হবে জগতে। সমস্ত জগতেই মেকআপই চলছে, কিন্তু কারণ জগতে কিন্তু নিখুঁত কোনোটাই নেই। আমরা যদিও মনে করি খুব নিখুঁতভাবে করতে হবে, অ্যাকুরেটলি করতে, অ্যাকুরেসি কোথায় জগতে? সবই তো সেজন্য আমাদের শ্রী শ্রী মায়ের প্রিয় গান, খেপার হাটে বাজার, মাধবের খেপার হাটে বাজার। আজকে আমাদের নীতিশকে আহ্বান করছি, 1 ঘন্টা তোমার সময় আছে। ফিনিশ অ্যাট 6:15, around 7:75. Dharma and Dhamma, বাকিটা তুমি বলে দেবো। নীতিশ। ঠিক আছে।
जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुर्। स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। परतत्त्वे सदा लीनो रामकृष्णसमाख्यया यो धर्मस्थापनरतो वीरेशं तन्नमाम्यहम्। परम श्रद्धेय स्वामी आत्मप्रियानंद जी महाराज, उपस्थित समस्त भगिनी बंधु, आमी बांग्ला शिखছি কিন্তু একটু একটু জানি, খুব তাড়াতাড়ি বলনা জানি না, এরকম ইংরেজিতে বলবো। Yes, so I'll speak in English. Dharma, the sonorous sound which reverberates intertwined with the pulse of Bharat. Its woof and woof with the fabric, social, political, existential fabric of this part of the world, of Bharat. For Bharat, Dharma is law, Dharma is justice, Dharma is ethics, Dharma is morality, Dharma is rituals, Dharma is truth. Sometimes Dharma is untruth. Dharma is injunctions. Dharma is non-violence. Sometimes Dharma is violence. Dharma is the Lord of death. Dharma is the Lord of sustainability. Dharma is on which everything sustains. Dharme sarvam pratishtitam. Whatever action, spiritual or profane, looks at the idea of dharma to acquire sustainability, to acquire sanctity. Governments look at dharma, the idea of dharma, to discharge Raj Dharma. Decision makers look at this idea to discharge Nyaya Dharma. Even thugs look at Dharma while committing violence. Warriors, generals look at Dharma to be ensured that what they are doing is a Dharma Yuddha. In fact, this was this quest for Dharma amidst the battlefield that Arjuna, in anxiety, quivering, asked Bhagavan. He says, Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammoda cheta yachreyasyan nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. O Krishna, I am deluded. I am under faint-heartedness. I don't know what is dharma. Please accept me as your student and instruct me. This quest for dharma was followed by the marvelous song divine Bhagavad Gita. So this idea of dharma is very breadth of Bharat. It is ubiquitous to Bharat. So today in the morning, my mobile gave a notification, a word of the day. So this word of the day was leitmotif, which means that it's the theme typical of a person filled with some particular theme. Dharma is leitmotif of Bharat, of a Hindu. But there are various connotations of dharma. In Parashara Dharma Samhita, they say that dharma bahuvidha loke. There are various types of dharma, and there is a list, non-exhaustive list, which I read. Desha dharmascha drishyante kula dharmas tathaiva cha jati dharma vayo dharma guna dharmascha shobhane sharira kala dharmascha apa dharmas tathaiva cha etat dharmasya nanatvam kriyate lokavasibhi. There are so many expressions of dharma And I learned that Hindus are great generalizers. So what is this general principle of dharma amidst all these different connotations? This was the question of Yaksha to Yudhishthira. And Dharmaraj answers, see, it is very difficult to answer this question. Because, first of all, reason has no foundation here. The scriptures are at odd with each other. And according to Dharmaraj, there is not a single rishi whose opinion can be considered to be universally true. Tarko apratishto, shrutayo vibhinna, na eko rishihi yasya matam pramanam. And then Dharmaraj adds, the truth about dharma is hidden in a cave. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. So, before humbly attempting to enter into this cave, we'll walk through the tradition and texts. What do they say about dharma? Briefly, we'll go through that. So the earlier texts, as early as to the Rig Veda, the word dharma is present. Scholars are of the view that dharma in the earlier Vedic texts imply rituals, rites, which are for the harmony and order and for the continuation of the identity, for the prosperity. And while reading on this, I found one mantra, one portion of Purusha Sukta, which is cited in all these scholarly works to argue this. They say, Yagyena yagyamayadhantam devaha tani dharmani prathamanyasan teha nakam mahimana sachante yatra purve sadhya santi devaha. Now this dharma, scholars are interpreting, literal interpretation is rites and rituals. But later, while we'll analyze our model, we'll see that maybe, perhaps, a metaphorical interpretation would suit better. Nonetheless, the initial portions of the Veda look at dharma as rites and rituals as per the scholars. Then the later Vedic idea of dharma was law, norms. In the Mimamsa Darshan and a school of Indian philosophy, which starts with Athato Dharma Jigyasa, they define dharma in the second sutra as Chodana Lakshanartho Dharmaha, one which is understood, which is comprehended through injunctions, through do's and don'ts. Here, dharma, from what was rites and rituals, becomes law and ethics. The Vaisheshika school, the sutras which start with Athato Dharmam Vyakhyasam, define the dharma as Yatho Abhyudaya Nishreyasa Siddhi Sah Dharmaha. Dharma is that which leads us to the worldly welfare and spiritual well-being. Another school of philosophy, another darshana, Nyaya Darshana, looks at dharma as property, as inherent nature. Just like the dharma of Agni is to burn. So that inherent nature is dharma under the Nyaya school. What about human dharma? So we have smritis, we have dharma shastras defining certain aspects as the dharma of humans. Shama, Dhamma, Satya, Asteya, aparigraha, ahimsa, all as the dharma of individuals, of persons. Then there is duty as per varna, as per your guna inclination, certain prescriptions of your duty is there, and that also becomes dharma. Then we have itihas and purana, which are full to the brim with the illustrations of what is dharma and how a conduct of a person should be, vidhi and nishedh. In the later texts, which speak about governance, about policy, the Niti Shastras, including Kautilya's Arthashastra, Brihaspati's Smriti, dharma becomes strength of a sovereign. Dharmo ragyaha parambalam. The lens for governance, decision making, for policy, for economics, for all the matters where abhyudaya, welfare is involved, dharma becomes a lens. Then we come to a much recent period, a recent past. In the 19th century, a professor from Oxford, who is named Monier Williams, composed a dictionary, Sanskrit and English dictionary. He writes religion interprets as dharma. So, according to some scholars, religion, the word religion equalizing to dharma, comes from Monier Williams' dictionary. Now, he wrote in Oxford. But impact of this comes in Bengal. The missionaries started using the word dharma as religion and proposing Christianity as true dharma. To counter this, certain Vaishnava sects use the word Hindu dharma in the sense of religion. So these are so many connotations of dharma which are there, innumerable. So Yaksha's question still remains to be answered. What is the true nature of dharma? Is it law? Yes, but something more than that. Is it morality? Yes, but something more than that. Injunctions? Yes, but more than that. Religion? Yes, but something more than that. So, what is the general principle of dharma? So, Sri Krishna says, Dharmanam gatim sukshmam duranmayam. The ways of dharma are subtle and difficult to comprehend. So let us make one humble attempt to perform this anvayam, to comprehend the general principle of dharma. And whatever follows from here on, I must confess, this is something which I have processed from the teachings of my teachers. Swami Atmapriyananji, Dr. Ram Vaidya, Dattopanji, and Professor Divakaracharya, who was initially supposed to deliver this lecture. So whatever model follows from here, I don't claim any originality, novelty for that. But if there is any logical lacuna in it, or intellectual incoherence in that, understand that it comes from my error in processing that. Alright. So, to construct any theory, generally, we start with an ontological assumption. For example, in general terms, Sri Krishna starts with Atman. Assumption is there, and then you build on upon that. In the Christian tradition, you start with, let's say, original sin, and you build on upon that. Certain assumptions are there. So what is our ontological assumption number one? That is the principle of interconnectedness. All the entities in the universe are interconnected. Every entity is connected with each other. Not just emotionally, not just for the sake of security, but actually connected. Physically, psychologically, and of course, spiritually. So let's look at first the physical interconnectedness. We know Albert Einstein, general theory of relativity. That theory is based on another theory by a German professor, Ernst Mach's. That Mach's theory says that inertial forces experienced by any object is a result of gravitational effect of all other matters in the universe. That is to say, if we paraphrase this, that entire universe is interconnected and it's like waves on the ocean of matter. That is the physical interconnectivity. Second, we come to the psychological interconnectivity. Carl Jung, a stalwart in psychology, writes that unconscious is the storehouse of all the human power. And he coins one term, collective unconscious. So this collective unconscious is formed not by individual experience, but it is passed through genetics, it is passed through culture. As members of a certain family, we have certain unconscious, how we behave. As Hindus, we have certain unconscious. When we are on a foreign soil, we see all Indians have something peculiar which they share amongst each other. Same goes to other nationalities also. But we see Bharatiyas behaving in a certain way. There is a certain collective unconscious which is there, which pulsates through every individual belonging to that group. There could be family unconscious, national unconscious, human unconscious. So there is a collective unconscious which is there, psychological interconnectivity. And spiritual interconnectivity, we all know. Vedanta has been reiterating now and again that there is a cosmic mind and all individual minds are part of that. There is a cosmic consciousness, all individual consciousness are part of that. There is a spiritual connectivity which needs no further elaboration before this gathering. Each of them, physics is talking about physical interconnectivity, psychology is talking about behavioral, psychological, mental interconnectivity, and of course Vedanta is talking about the spiritual interconnectivity. So now, all the entities are interconnected. This is our ontological axiom. Now, Hindus, apart from being great generalizers, they are great taxonomers as well, classifiers. So all the entities are classified into three: the individual, the world, and the God, creator. This is one way of looking at it. Jeev, Jagat and Jagadish. There is another way of looking at it, which is Vyashti, Samashti, Srishti and Parameshti. Individual, collective, the world around, and the supreme reality, God, the creator. But we'll use this Trinity framework because we'll assume here that Srishti and Samashti are combined in Jagat. So we have three entities, Jiva, Jagat and Jagadish. And all are interconnected, we have already seen. Now we come to Dharma. Dharma coming from the Dhri Dhatu. Dhri Dhatu, to support, to sustain. So what does Dharma sustain? Dharma sustains the relationship between these three. So Dharma does three things. One, Dharma sustains each entity in its own positionality. Second, Dharma sustains the relationship between each entity. And third, Dharma sustains the whole. Dharmo Vishwasya Jagatah Pratishtha. So that element of Dharma which sustains the whole matrix of relationship is also referred as Ritam. In the language of Vedanta, it is something upon which the Nama Rupa Prapancha sustains. Whereas that element of Dharma, that expression of Dharma which sustains the positionality of each element is Swadharma. And that expression, that element of Dharma which sustains the relationship between all the entities expresses itself in various ways. For instance, if we see the relationship between Jiva and Jagat, individual and the world, so Dharma manifests itself as ethics, as law, as justice, as ecological governance. And in Katodian language we see how Hindus beautifully deploy this. Ganga Mata, Parvat Baba, Chanda Mama. Anthropomorphism. A relationship is established with the Jagat, and that relationship is sustained through Dharma. In case of Jiva and Jagadish, this Dharma manifests itself as rituals, as theology, as religion, and this could be in any way, in whatever way it sustains. This relationship could be of a child and a parent, Vatsalya. It could be between two paramours, Madhurya. It could be servant and master, Dasya, and so on. Now, since these entities, Jiva, Jagata, Jagadish, these entities are operating in the time-space causation, and time-space causation is dynamic. So these entities are also dynamic. Therefore their relationship with each other is also dynamic. Therefore the principle which sustains the relationship between these has to be dynamic. Hence, Dharma changes its expression. Dharma remains, but its expression changes. Swamiji says, as time rolls on, more and more codes of dharmic expression will come and direct towards better channels into paths which accord with the necessity of age, and without which it is impossible that society can live. Dharma's expressions are pragmatic. To sustain the dynamic relationships, it has to be pragmatic. These are not absolutely defined or restricted expressions. In terms of morals, when Dharma expresses itself as morals, one story comes, which Bimal Krishna Matilal writes in his book and analyzes that. Professor Matilal narrates a story from Mahabharata. There's a story of a Rishi, Rishi Kaushika. Rishi Kaushika has taken an oath, a resolution that he will never tell a lie. Now one day he was sitting in front of his hut and a person came running and hid himself near the hut. And he told Rishi, don't tell anybody that I am here. Following him came few thugs and asked the Rishi, do you know where that man has gone? They had come to kill him. Now Rishi had two options as per him. Either he should say no or he should say yes. If he says yes, that person will be killed. If he says no, that will be untruth and that will go against his resolution. So what should he do? Dharma Sankat. Rishi went with his resolution. He told them, he is there. And the person was killed. And Sri Krishna says, the Rishi was Muda. He did not act as per Dharma. Because Dharma is dynamic. There's another story comes, which we all have read, heard, regarding violence, morality and violence. It comes in Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrit as well. And it comes in scholarly works by some professors of ethics, including Professor Matilal. A snake was violent, he was biting people, we all know that story. And a Rishi came and said, you should not bite. And he agreed. After a few days, again Rishi came and saw him in a feeble condition and asked, what happened to you? And he says, see, earlier I was hitting people and earlier I was biting people and they were scared of me. Now I stopped doing that. So they are just beating me around. And that's why I've gone feeble. So Rishi says to him, I told you not to bite, but I didn't tell you not to hiss. You could have hissed. Similarly, Professor Matilal says in case of Rishi Kaushika, he had taken a pledge not to tell a lie, but he could have remained silent. Or he could have said, I know where that person is, but I won't tell you. In that case, his resolution would have sustained and that person's life would have sustained. So there are different ways, different paths of Dharma. And Dharma is dynamic. Dharma is not an absolute morality. It changes its form, its expression according to time, space and causation. Now this comes according to morality. Now we saw that scriptural injunctions are also considered to be Dharma. So what's the positionality of scriptural injunctions in this model, in this dynamics? We simply quote Vachaspati Mishra, who in his Bhamati Tika on Adhyas Bhashya says that on the ontological axioms, on the Tattvika Pramanya, the Shruti Vakya, the scriptures are supreme. Because they are Apurushaye and they are the supreme. But as far as the empirical truths are considered, vyavaharik pramanya are considered, pratyaksha is the pramana jeshta. Now another question comes. We have been saying constantly dharma is the soul, or it's intertwined with the soul of Bharat. But we have been hearing, and rightly so, that spirituality is the soul of Bharat. So where is spirituality is in this dynamics, in this model? Is it in the principle of interconnectedness, that we all are interconnected? Every entity is interconnected. I remember while explaining this principle of interconnectedness, Maharaj gave a beautiful illustration that I move my little finger and there the stars are disturbed. So this kind of interconnectedness is there in the universe. Is this the spiritual principle in this model? Yes, but there is something more profound which is to be followed. The Trinity classification, all the elements, they appear as a wave on the ocean of consciousness. The unity principle, the second principle. All entities are merely the phenomenon superimposed on the nomen of universal consciousness. The same gold is appearing as anklet and bangle and the crown. As Ashtavakra says, Mayananta Mahabodha Vascharya Jiva Vivichaha Udyanti, Gnananti, Khelanti, Pravishanti, Swabhavataha. I am that limitless ocean on which the waves of all beings arise, collide, play and disappear according to their nature. So there is something fundamental beneath the Trinity, all the elements, and that fundamental is me. As Swamiji says, and Maharaj, when Maharaj speaks this, you really feel goosebumps. Swamiji says, Christs and Buddhas are the waves on the boundless ocean which I am. This is the spiritual connotation of this model. But establishing oneself in this unity principle is, no doubt, Purushartha Varishtha, the highest Purushartha. But as long as we stay in duality, we perceive duality, we need to follow the principle of interconnectedness with an objective knowledge of the principle of unity. All actions should be crafted in the light of this principle of interconnectedness, which gives rise to Dharma. This is Dharma and its paradigm. This is our worldview, the Bharatiya worldview. However, pragmatically, our conditioned mind has limited Dharma to religious rituals and political jargons, believing it to be antithetical to the idea of progress and modernity, and reducing the very idea of Dharma to be first degree synonym to passivity and orthodoxy. Albeit, if this concept of Dharma is considered, nowhere else has this idea of dynamism, of sustainability, of harmony more pronounced than in this idea of dharma. World has got this connotation, it's the buzzword these days, sustainability, and it is applied in various fields. There's a juggling going on with this jargon. But borrowing a phrase from revered Swami Ranganathananji, it's all watering the leaves without the roots. Because as long as the fragmented, materialistic, anthropocentric worldview persists, sustainability is a far-fetched dream in letter and spirit. It is only through dharma that sustainability can be achieved in its essence. And when I say this, I am conscious that this cradle of dharma, where dharma nurtured, this Bharat, India, is suffering from so many problems, social, political, all kinds of it. Ecological, because sustainability is attributed to ecological sustainability more. The national capital of India has become a gas chamber because of pollution. Adulteration in food is a norm and purity is an exception. Judicial delays are high. Corruption is a norm. We know everything. And being aware of that, still we claim that it is dharma alone which can show the path of sustainability and harmony to the world. But then why Bharat is facing all this? Bharat is facing all this because the lens of dharma has long been renounced from the social public lens of Bharat. To give an analogy, what has happened is that we have borrowed certain reindeers from the sleigh of Santa Claus and tied it to our Pushpak Viman. And now we are expecting why Ram is not coming, why Ram Rajya is not coming. We have applied a lens of development, of sustainability, of progress, which is alien to us. And now we are expecting development through that lens. There's a beautiful paper, very small paper, but beautiful. 1931, a lecture was given by K.C. Bhattacharya. And that paper is called Swaraj in Ideas. That's a must read. That gives an explanation why dharma, despite having this profound idea of dharma, we are not progressing, because the lens of our idea is not our own. It's not endogenous. It's not indigenous. I'll just give two examples and then we'll conclude. Two examples of how the lenses, social lenses, public lenses, policy lenses which we are applying in Bharat do not suit us. First example will be from economics. Second will be from law, and I'll be mindful that I don't speak much on law. So, economics. The current model of economics, the capital-centric model of economics, which is prevalent all over the world, including our side of the globe. So here, the wealth is material, money-centric than value-centric. Now let's take one illustration. Let's say I am a computer scientist trained in some XYZ Ivy League college, and I am appointed as an assistant professor in our university. I teach very dedicatedly. I produce papers, I produce good scholars, and I draw a salary of 12 lakh rupees per annum, 1.2 million rupees per annum. So, according to the prevalent lens, my contribution to the national income, which is an indicator of progress and wealth, would be 1.2 million rupees. Now, I find the environment very conducive for my practices. I'm impressed. After 2 years, I decide to become a monk. Now I am at the same place, doing the same job, maybe in a better manner. Maybe I am producing more research. I am producing better scholars. Because now Swarth is not there. I am working, I am teaching in the service, in the spirit of service. But since I am a monk, I am a brahmachari, so I don't draw any salary. So according to this lens, despite creation of value, my contribution to the national income and to the wealth would be nil. So this is the fragmented view. One example from the economics. We have seen what dharma is and what is the paradigm of dharma, but we need to operate our social life, our policies according to this lens of dharma, this principle of interconnectivity, and continue reflecting upon this principle of interconnectivity till the time we are established in the principle of unity. And that mantra of Purusha Sukta, in my metaphorical interpretation, meant dharma as this, establishing oneself in this principle of unity. Dhanyavad.
He was very clear and uncompromisingly succinct. Shankaracharya, the great Bhashyakara, in the Gita Bhashya, Upodghata it is called, in the introductory portion, he says, Dvivido hi vedokto dharmaha pravritti lakshano nivritti lakshanascha. Vedic dharma is twofold. One is pravritti lakshana dharma, other is nivritti lakshana dharma. And he defines dharma there by saying, Jagata sthiti karanam praninam sakshat abhyudaya nishreyasa hetuhoya sadharmaha. Adds, ashramibhi varnibhischa shreyorthibhi anushthiyamana. This simple sentence, written in extremely simple Sanskrit, defines the whole thing in perspective. What is dharma? Jagata sthiti karanam, what Nitish was saying just now. The sthiti, sustainability, as he said, it comes a dhru dhatu. Dhru means to hold, to sustain. So what sustains the universe of living and non-living beings is dharma. The principle of sustainability is dharma. And what does it give? Sakshad abhyudaya nishreyasa hetuhu. It is the cause of abhyudaya and nishreyasa. Abhyudaya is dharma artha kama, nishreyasa is moksha marga. Our scriptures did not prohibit a human being to enjoy, just the opposite. We have unfortunately made our Hindu religion too otherworldly, this Mayavada and so on. A person is starving in the street and talk about Maya, it makes no sense. Swami Vivekananda said, I don't believe in a God who can't give me 2 pieces of bread when I am alive, promises me eternal heaven after I am dead. If there is such a God, he is not worth a pie. Nishrayasa comes later when you are done with this world, when you are tired of it. Vairagya dawns on you because you have enjoyed enough and more. It is said in our Shastras, and Swamiji also repeats it, if a person has to renounce the world, becomes a monk, he must have been a king in his earlier janmas. He's enjoyed enough and more, and he says, enough. Vairagya is a very difficult word. People are scared of this word. It simply says, enough is enough. That's the Vairagya. Shankaracharya says in the Mundaka-Upanishad Bhashya, alam pratyayavan, very significant statement. Alam means enough. That pratyaya, the feeling alam, that feeling if it has come to you, put a stop to this. Alam, I have enjoyed enough. A time comes even in the intellectual pursuits. Great scientists and people who have been pursuing this, got the Nobel Prize and so on. Then what? Shankaracharya is a very expressive term, phrase. Late Swami Smaranananda Ji, who taught us Vedanta for decades, was so fond of tatakyam, 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 tatakyam. So what? Shankara uses this in the Guru Ashtakam. Manaschena lagnam gurorangripadme tatakyam, 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 tatakyam. This is well known. Less known, which Swami Smarananda used to quote, Anatma Shri Nigarhana Stotram. If you have not realized the self, realized the Atma, the supreme entity, what is the use of all your scholarship? You may be a great king, even be the Maha Mandaleshwara. Atma Sakshat Kruto na bhut. If the Atma Sakshatkara has not taken place, tatakyam, tatakyam. Sometimes I ask, even if you had mukti or moksha, tatakyam. I used to imagine, suppose I become free. Jivan mukta is this moment. It is possible, Vedanta is possible. It is now about to be 7:15. I am now 7:13. In 2 minutes I will be a Jivan mukta. It is possible, theoretically. Any of you can walk out, you can go out as Jivan muktas. That's what Vedanta says. Suppose you become a Jivan mukta, so what? What will happen to you? You will become free from the body and the mind and the senses, feel yourself in the infinite. Assuming I did, so what? The so what question continuously remains without any answer. So I have been so much worried about this question. Suppose you get jnana, then you will go to Ramakrishna Mandala, the Ramakrishna Loka, some Loka they were created, and you will go and live with Ramakrishna. So what? I am living in the environment now. So what happens finally? When I used to travel by bus long ago, I used to watch children moving around and talking to the mothers. The mother had a child, and mother is telling the child, see, you should study well, you should pass the exam. Then what? Then the mother said, then you can go to the best institutes in the world. Oh, that's fine. Then what? Then you can get a good job. Then what? A lot of money. Then what? It went on pestering. The mother couldn't answer. Because there is no answer to this question. Then what? What happens? Suppose you realize God. Suppose you realize your supreme reality. God realization is the aim of human life. You realize God. So what? So what is it that gives you satisfaction? We don't know whether you realize God you'll get satisfaction. They become recluses and then sit in a corner. That's one type. The other type begin to preach to people. Hundreds of thousands of millions of preachers have come and gone. Buddhas and Christs have come and gone. And the world continues to be a terrible place even now. Many people ask, What is the use of Ramakrishna and Vivekananda and Sarada coming and preaching? Look at this world now. If you ask Ramakrishna, he will say it is Tal Leela, kichu korar nahi. You may think he is escaping this, but that is the truth. Because there is no the Leela is something in which there is no explanation. What is explanation? There is a cause for everything. Because of this cause, the effect follows. There is no cause and effect relationship, the breakdown of causality. That is the final truth. There cannot be any causality. Two types of people in the world are beyond causality. One is a child, there is a mad person. In law also, if you can prove this person did this, he is out of mind, he is insane, he can't be punished. A child can't be punished. I even now remember an interesting incident. Abdul Kalam was the president of India at that time. He used to be so simple and childlike. The convocation of the Indira Gandhi Open University was taking place in Calcutta. I was invited, I went. He was Z++ security, so much of checking, cross-checking. We went inside. The function is about to begin. And so much of security and everybody standing there. A small child came rushing before Abdul Kalam. He's sitting and said, and then ran away, making faces. If I had done that, I would have been arrested immediately. What was the reaction? Everybody was laughing, including Kalam himself. And he took the child and fondling child, gave it a chocolate. Why? See, you observe the world and ask fundamental questions. That is called philosophy, that is called religion, that is called the Upanishads. Upanishads are not philosophy or metaphysics. They ask simple questions about what we actually perceive, what we actually go through. When you open your eyes, how is it that you see? Is it a question to be asked? How is it that we hear? How is it that we're able to think? Kene shidam patate preshidam mana kena prana prasama priti yukta kene shidam vachamimam vadanti chakshusretram kavudevo yunakti. The simple question, apparently very naive and stupid. Persist in this question, then you'll get profound truths. Vedanta, Upanishads or Shastras are profound answers to simple questions that we keep asking as children and snubbed by our parents and teachers. Then teachers say in school, bodo classes chikbi, when you grow to higher classes, sir, you must have learned it in the lower class. In All India Radio A and B, 15 minutes there is no program. The program says, All India Radio A as in B. B says as in A. Causality is something artificially invented by the logical mind. That has to go first. That's why Ramakrishna says, Ama edema pagal kore. Pagal is a person in whom there is no causality. You can't, why are you behaving? There is no why in it. You behave like that. A child has no causality. And the only relationship between that which is caused and that which is uncaused, which is called sadhana. So, sadhana itself is meaningless. I discovered it long ago. But I continue to do. What is sadhana? Trying to achieve something which is infinite and absolute by doing things which are in the relative world. All your sadhana is in the relative world. My japa, my meditation, everything through the mind. The mind is conditioned by causality. Mind is finite. I am the relative world, struggling in the relative world to obtain something which is absolutely beyond the relative. Can this ever happen? Is it possible? It can't. It is fallacious. What is the one relationship between the causal and the non-causal, relative and the absolute, finite and the infinite? Swami Vivekananda discovered this in his famous poem Shakhara Prati. He says, I tried all kinds of job, top, and meditation and sadhana and then begging in the streets. Tapashara bhare kithon korino uparjon. He says, what did I gain? Prem, prem me matra dhan. That the only relationship between that which is non-causal and causal, that which is relative and absolute. Because there is no why in love. Suppose a boy falls in love with somebody. Hare, she is not so good looking. Why did you fall in love? I don't know. It is fascinating. Their love, you cannot ask why. People ask, why did you become monks? I like Ramakrishna's form and name, and then he is such a khati look, if not anything else. Vivekananda is a khati look. There is no hypocrisy, there is no double dealing. Somehow I like him. Why did you like him? There is somehow, there is no cause. That's why the only link between this and that is causality. This is prema. Prema means that unconditional, pure, vishuddha prema. That's why Ramakrishna says, Ami mukti dete katara noy, shuddha bhakti dete katara hoy. The gopis, for example. The gopis didn't understand anything, and Uddhava wanted to give them some jnana. Then gopis said, oh Uddhava, I thought we are such a great jnani, but I see you are so stupid. You are asking us to think of Sri Krishna as Sarvabhutatma, Bhutatma and all that. The mind through which we will think about Sri Krishna, that mind we have surrendered to Krishna long ago. Where is the question of thinking or thought? So dharma, abhyudaya, nishreyasa, both of them come through dharma. Abhyudaya is pleasures in the world. Enjoying desires or kama is not prohibited, but that should be regulated by a principle called dharma. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarishava. Bhagavan says in the Gita, oh Arjuna, I am that kama. In fact, the kama is described by Shankara as generally desire. Sridhara Swami in his famous commentary says, that is that desire in man by which he produces children. Clearly is written, the Kandarpa. Even that, Bhagavan says, I am there at that principle. But it should be regulated by dharma. Dharma aviruddha kamaha. So the entire system in India, in Bharatvarsha, is dharma is the basis on which you do everything. That is the basis. What is that basis? What is the principle? Principle of dharma. Shruyatam dharma sarvasvam shrutva chapyavadharyatam. The beautiful shloka. Come on, listen to what is dharma. Having listened to it, follow it. What is that? Atmana pratikulani paresham nacham samacharet. Atmana pratikulani, that which is not, that which is detrimental to you, don't practice it to others. This is called the golden rule in all religions. Christianity, they say, do unto others as you would, they would do unto you. You do it somebody, deal with somebody as the way in which you will like to be dealt with by somebody else. That is the golden rule. And then we found out, multi-religious book we produced, every religion has a golden rule. The whole basis is self-sacrifice. This is the greatest discovery of Swami Vivekananda in the modern world. No God is required, no images are required, no formula are required, no sadhana is required, no intellectual ability is also required. Self-sacrifice, sacrifice your own self. What is the principle by which the world itself was created? With the dharma. Then Vyasa says, I raise both my arms and cry at the top of your voice, nobody listens to me. So people don't listen, children don't listen, don't worry. It happened to Vyasa also. Urdhvabahur viromyesha nijakasya srunoti mam dharmad arthasya kamasya sikimartham nasevyate. I raise both my arms and cry and shout, nobody listens to me. What do you say? Dharma, through dharma, artha and kama can also be attained. Why don't you practice dharma? That means, don't think because you practice dharma, artha kama will go away. That's present, the thought is, You have to raise the wealth through economy, and you have to increase your avenues of enjoyment. Dharma, Artha and Kama. For that, you need not always follow the principle of Dharma, because it will be detrimental. Clearly it is enunciated by your rishis, Vyasa and others. Through Dharma you can get Artha Kama also, and have it a much better way. Why don't you practice Dharma? So principle of Dharma is self-sacrifice. The greatest discovery of Swami Vivekananda, who said, unselfishness is God. He always used to like Buddha. Buddha said, do good and be good. That's the whole of religion. That's Dhamma. Dhamma is you be good, do good, don't live for yourself. The whole problem is the I. What was Buddha's discovery? Buddha was not interested in God, Buddha was not interested in the various philosophical wranglings. He said human beings are suffering miserably. Swamiji also said, the world is burning with misery, can you sleep, my child? So much of misery is there in the world. Wildfire suddenly catches up. Hundreds of people die. All the great mansions that the celebrities of Hollywood had built simply reduced to ashes in a moment. This is the power of nature, the power of Agni. That Agni accepts defeat at the end of Brahman in the Kena Upanishad. The world is terrible, the world is burning with misery. How can you ever sleep? Does not your heart melt in agony? This is what happened to Buddha. Buddha himself did not suffer, remember that. He was a king. But he could internalize the miseries of everybody, empathetically feel every person's misery, and then said, what is the way out? Way out. Then he found out tanha. Tanha means desire. It's clinging to life. Enjoying a desire is also pardonable, acceptable. But you want to keep it for the next day, to cling to it. Somebody gives me half a dozen cakes for Christmas. I can hardly take only 2. Bakita ki korbe, fridge rekhe kalke khabo. This is what gives us misery. Don't cling to it. This moment is what you have. This moment what you can, then distribute to everybody, finish it off. So we want to cling. We want to cling so that they can enjoy the next moment. Then called tanha. Trishna, in Pali it is tanha. Then he asked a question, tanha, where does it in her? Where does it stay? What are the locus of tanha? The I. I want desire, I want to enjoy, I want to go, I want to eat, the I everywhere. Then Buddha asked a simple question, where is it I? Let me trace it. When he deeply, profoundly investigated in the source of I, amazingly he discovered the I just is not. There is no I at all inside the body. This is the first lesson with which Sri Ramakrishna Upadesha starts in the famous book Ramakrishna Upadesh, compiled by Swami Brahmananda. All of it, this is a small book. Keep that book and reread it. That is one of the most authentic compilations. It is said, when Rakhal, Brahmananda was writing this, Ramakrishna appeared and said, Are Rakhal, ami orukam bolish, correct karo. So I always say, Ramakrishna Upadesh, Brahmananda Shankalito, Ramakrishna Sampadito. Ramakrishna himself edited that volume. First, the Upadesha there, what is this I? You just like peeling of an onion, you go on peeling, you see the eye is not there is no kernel there. What do you call eye? Is it the body? Is it flesh and bones? Is it the mind? So you go on identifying yourself, the eye, first with the body through the senses, and my hair is so wonderful. And then you go on combing the hair for half an hour. Your eye is identified with your hair. Eye is identified with your body. Eye is identified with your senses. Then, I am a great scholar. This fellow is a fool. Eye is identified with the book. Eye is identified with my intellectual capacity. Somebody writes a book and you criticize that book, they get very angry. My book! How dare you know what it is? There's an interesting joke. One young boy came to one of the ashramas. Then said, he went to the head of the center, Maharaj, I want to stay there for 3 days. How can you stay here? Who are you? I don't know you. Simply throw him away. He came back dejected. One of the other Swamis, younger, intelligent Swami, he caught him. What did he say? You do something. There is a small book which he has written. You take that book to him and ask him to put autograph. He again you come here? I drove you away? No, Maharaj, I will go away. But I saw in the bookshop you have written a beautiful book. You saw that, seen that? Just I want your signature so that I can remember. Hey, sit down. Wow, you are a good, intelligent boy. How many days you want to stay? 3 days. 1 week you stay here. See, the I is identifying the book. See how subtly the I goes on identifying. What is this I? Buddha said, I is not there. His greatest discovery is anatta. The I, atta means the ego. The I is not there. And anitya, the whole thing is evanescent. Everything is continuously changing. The great debate in science as well as philosophy, what is more fundamental? Is it change? Is it changelessness? Buddha says everything is change. That's what you see. Vedanta says if change has to happen, there should be a changeless, constant entity with respect to which change is possible. The question asked of Vedanta is, what is that changeless? We don't see that anywhere. And Vedanta will reply very intelligently, oh, you will see that, Shravamana, Nididhyasana, and then Viveka, Vairagya, Nityanitya, Vasiveka, all this big list you go through, then you will see. I don't want that. Now I want to see. So practically you see everything is changing. Anitya. So that gives you the feeling that you can't be attached to anything. You get attached to the next moment, it changes. There has to be a changeless entity, otherwise the world will have no meaning. Life will have life is meaningless. You go back home after the lecture, see your house is not there. Hey, what happened? It has moved away. You don't know that it's gone dead. If everything in the world is changing, then life will lose its meaning. What happens? Life loses its meaning? You become mad. Who is a mad person? Finds no meaning in life. Suppose you say, oh, I will become mad, I don't mind. Please go ahead. Vedanta therefore said there should be a changeless entity. It's a big debate going on even now. But Buddha was the most practical person. This is what you see. Anitya. Don't be attached to Anitya Vastu. And I want to enjoy. Where is the I which enjoys? Dukkha, Anitya, and the Anatta. 3 principles of Buddha. And from this, later on, Nagarjuna and great scholars and saints, they were not ordinary scholars. They were highly evolved souls. Although Buddha will frown at the word evolution, they said there cannot be any dharma for anything in this world. What is the dharma of this table? I can put my hand on this table, I can write on this table, I can eat on this table. That is the dharma. It holds me. What is the dharma of a pen? It writes. What is the dharma of a keyboard? It enables me to write on the computer. What is the dharma of a monitor? It displays. See, every part in this world has a dharma. Now, does it have any swabhava of its own? Here the idea of interconnectedness he was talking about. Suppose you take a piece of paper. This is an example which the Buddhists give. What is the dharma of a paper? Paperness is the dharma of paper. Is a vriksha. What is the dharma of vriksha? Vrikshatva is the dharma of a vriksha. Paperness or paperhood is the dharma of paper. Now analyze this. What is paperness? For paper to be a paper, it depends on 100,000 millions of causes so that the paper can be produced. Somebody cut the tree somewhere, and on the pulp he created something. It went to several series of processing by which something had, and that paper was manufactured somewhere. Hundreds of people involved in that factory. Somebody transported the entire paper here, and the driver, including the person who gave him tea, when he was tired. That he was also included in this chain. So a chain of 100,000 millions of factors, men, women, inanimate and animate objects, all of them are involved in the production of a paper which possesses paperness. So, this paperness depends upon 100,000 infinite number of causes. There cannot be a swabhava of the paper itself except through dependence of all this infinite number of causes. So what is swabhava? So Buddhism says there is no swabhava, there is no swabhava for anybody. That means every object in the universe is actually without any swabhava of its own, and therefore you can rephrase it by saying swabhava shunyata. There is no swabhava there. There is nothing. It cannot call its own. So the interdependency through interconnectedness is the only truth in this universe. Which means, come to Vedanta, if I harm you, I am harming myself. That is the ethical basis of Vedanta. Vedanta say, what is the ethical basis? So far, philosophy has been discussing, debating over millennia. Why should I be moral and ethical? If I can steal somebody's property and not get caught, if I can kill your throat and nobody can catch me, then why should I not do this? Why should I be moral and ethical? Scriptural injunctions have lost their force because Vedas have said this, Quran, let them say. The other fellow who cheated me, he is happy and thriving. I am following your morality, I am suffering. My students come and complain to me, আপনাদের জন্য আমাদের সর্বনাশ হলো। কেন রে, কি হয়েছে? পরীক্ষাতে পাশে একটি ছেলে বসে বসে টুকছে, ভালো নম্বর পেয়ে ভালো পজিশন পেয়ে একটা ভালো কলেজে ভর্তি হয়েছে, আপনাদের জন্য টুকতে পারলাম না। কেন টুকলি না কেন? এই তো আপনার সহানুভূতি তো শেষ করে দিল আমাদের। যখনই বললো না এটা ঠিক না, দেখো মোরালিটির জন্য সর্বনাশ হলো আমার। This is the question people are asking, young people are asking now. So why should I be like that? Now what is the basis? Vedanta gives the basis, Buddhism gives the basis, Dharma and Dhamma, which says if you harm somebody else, you are harming yourself, because the other man is you. In the infinite ocean of matter, your body, my body are only whirlpools. Swamiji says this in the Madras lecture, my plan of campaign. In the huge ocean of minds with thoughts, your mind, my mind are only parts. That's called the Hiranyagarbha, and the cosmic mind. And the spirit which you feel you are is part of the infinite cosmic spirit. So he uses three phases in this famous paper on Hinduism in Chicago Parliament of Religions. He calls material monism, philosophical monism, and spiritual monism. At all the levels there is monism. The monism means oneness. I can't be apart from yourself. Without harming me, I can't harm you. Gita, 6th chapter. Atmopamena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va idiva dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. The supreme yogi is a person who considers all beings as one's own self. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha me pashyati tasyaham pranashyami sajavena pranashyati sarva bhuta sthitam yo mam bhajati ekatvam asthitah sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. This is the eternal truth which has been said in our scriptures, in all the world scriptures. So your I should be completely eliminated, become zero. Two paths are mentioned. You investigate into the I and see that it is zero, non-existent. So the path of jnana, you simply thrash this I. Or the path of bhakti, God is the supreme being, I am nobody, naham tuhu tuhu. The question is asked, koham, who am I? Two answers are given. In the path of bhakti, naham. In the path of jnana, soham. I am that infinite. I will end with a small anecdote by Girish Chandra Ghosh, the famous poet and dramatist. He said, Mahamaya, you know Mahamaya? Everybody knows. We are all caught in his net. Mahamaya casts the net and all of us are caught there. 2 people escaped. One person became so big, so vast, that the net couldn't catch him. The other person became so small, it escaped through the holes of the net. First person was Swami Vivekananda, second person Nagmaharshya. Either you reduce the I to such an extent it becomes impossible to trace it even, or let the I be realized as the infinite Brahman, and your little ego simply pales into insignificance. Then what? Nothing happens except a realization. You feel, I am this world and the world is me. A woman, Devi Suktam, Vak was a woman rishi, she said, Aham Rudre Bhiradasamischarambhyaham Adityertha Vishwadevi. I am the sun, I am the moon, I am this universe. She was dancing in joy. Or Aham Vrikshasya Reriva Kirti Prishtham Gireriva. The rishi says, Trishanko Vedana Vasanam. My glory is that of the huge mountain. I am that vast, infinite whole. This is the treatment for sorrow given by Swami Vivekananda to Emma Khalve. You know the story, with this at the end. Emma Khalve is a great celebrity in Paris. As all celebrities are, extremely depressed, unhappy, almost contemplating ending her life. Somebody told her, you go to Swami Vivekananda, a great yogi here. She went there. The moment she entered, Swamiji was writing something, did not even look up. Oh, ki jhod boiche tomar moddhe, shanta ho, bosho ekhane. Then Swamiji looked into her eyes and started speaking about things which she had not revealed to anybody. She said, Swami, apni charlin ki kore? Somebody told you about all this? Is it necessary? I can read you like an open book. Then Swamiji told her, gave a great Advaitic impulse. Don't brood your secret sorrow. Let the past go. Be cheerful. Wake up. You are not that little entity caught up in the body-mind complex. You are that infinite. You are the entire universe. Infinite power and glory is in you. You are Satchidananda Swarupa and so on. It is not mere words. That Advaita impulse went deep into her consciousness and transformed her. She was almost getting into kind of samadhi, losing herself. Then she cried, Swami, what are you doing to me? I am losing myself. My individuality is gone. Swamiji used to make fun of the Westerners. You Westerners are so fond of clinging to your individuality. Just taunting them. You are not individuals yet. You shall be when you become universal. Then he ended by saying this. A water drop was falling in the ocean, and the drop was crying profusely. The ocean said, Kanchish kenore? Amar binduttoda chole jabe. I will lose my drophood. I was a drop. I will lose my entity as a drop because I will merge with you and I am lost. Then Swamiji said, you will not lose your identity as a drop, but you will regain your individuality as the ocean. You are me. You are part of me. Sun's rays took you up. Now you come back to me and join the billions and trillions of drops which are your brothers and sisters like you. Your identity, your individuality in realizing your universality. You are the universal. So either look at it from the point of Buddhism when you completely reduce yourself to nothingness, anatta, or come to Vedanta, you say that aham is soham, that as broad as that. This is the lesson of Dharma and Dhamma. This has to be practiced. Talk is very good. Whenever you get depressed, what is depression to me? Let it come and go. So Buddhism is so useful in that sense. There is a king who called all the scholars and said, write me a small sentence, I'll carry it in my ring, in my finger. Whenever I say it, I feel inspired. Then one Buddhistic monk came and said, wrote there, Itao Jabe. Then there's a terrible calamity and he was depressed. Itao Jabe, don't worry, this sorrow will go. there's a great victory, then there are the processions and people are celebrating, and he is also overwhelmed. Don't jump about with joy, eto jabe. This is the one dictum of Buddha, ye bhi jayega. This will also pass. So either way you look at it, our life should be blessed, not through realization of God, not by Atma-jnana or Brahma-jnana, but by sacrificing our little self for the blessing of humanity. Vasantaval logahitam charanta. One last word in Vedanta is Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. You want the welfare of all beings. Let all beings be happy. Thank you so much for listening.